Teams can also be interdisciplinary. It's a higher level of team function. In that type of a team, there are several disciplines that are collaborating for the decision making. Um, the evaluation treatment still happens independently, but there can be formal communications for the treatment planning and for prioritizing the needs, allocating of resources. An example of this is if you've ever been in a rehab setting, they may have weekly things like grand rounds or other meetings at which the rehab department, all of the disciplines get together and they talk about a particular patient. But they're still really kind of talking about, I did this evaluation and these are the results and what do we do about that? And nursing might be able to do this. So they're talking, but they're still doing their treatment and evaluation independently. The highest level of a team, what's considered to be a team, the highest, best option is considered a transdisciplinary team. And as you might think, it's transdisciplinary, so it means there's several disciplines that are working together. They're committed to ongoing communication and collaboration, shared decision making, and the evaluation and treatments are planned cooperatively, and the treatment is often shared. So lots of co-treatments that happen. This is what we're talking now about interprofessional collaboration, because what you're doing is, you oftentimes, and it's not hasn't been unusual for me to do an evaluation with PT and speech at the same time, because it's rather than duplicate the services, um, it allows you to see other aspects of what the other disciplines are doing and what a child can do for in these different areas. Treatment is often shared. Co-treatment is a great opportunity to elicit the best out of the child, but also to um, see what works for another discipline, what the child's skills are in another area, and it prevents the duplication of services. So you can accomplish so much more if you are able to work with another discipline. So that can be really effective, and that's considered the highest level of teamwork. And then service delivery briefly. We, as an OT in a school setting, we can provide direct service, indirect service, or a mixture of direct and indirect. And the indirect is consultation and monitoring are the two forms of indirect service. So direct is exactly what it sounds like. We have treatment and it's implemented. It's treatment skilled service that can't be carried out safely by another person. So if you're doing actually SI treatment and you're evaluating the child's response to that treatment, that is a skilled service. So by direct treatment, I don't mean that it has to be a one-to-one, but it's face-to-face. So it's providing service face-to-face with the child and adult. These are service deliveries across populations. So it's still direct if you are seeing a group of children. The process and the content of the therapy is directly experienced by both the therapist and the child or the client. So, as I said, face to face. And it's the relevant information is communicated to others on the team. So you're providing a direct service. Indirect service, as I said, can be consultation or monitoring. Consultation is that collaborative process that can be for a long period of time or it can be for a specific period of time. And the therapist uses his or her expertise to help that other person address an issue identified by that person. So, for example, you might consult on a particular child that's on your caseload, and it's important to note that consultation or direct service never occurs without a consultation. So, if you're providing direct service with a child, you should also be providing consultation to that teacher because you want to make sure that you are having carryover of what you're doing in therapy, but also you want to know what's happening in the classroom so you can support that child's academic progression. So it's important to have that consultation piece. But you can also provide consultation without actually seeing a child. So, for example, a teacher comes to you and says, I'm struggling when in between after they come in from recess, we have English and then we have math and then we have social studies. And by the time we get to social studies, the class is just off the wall. They just can't pay attention anymore. You have any ideas for what I can do to help the kids pay attention? So you're not working with a particular child in the classroom, but you can provide that teacher with some suggestions. Have a movement break between math and social studies. Do animal walks. Do have them get up and do head, shoulders, knees, and toes. You can provide some suggestions as to what that teacher might do. What in the case of that kind of a consultation, in any consultation, you're not responsible for the follow through of whatever your recommendations are. So all you're doing is providing suggestions. Whether those suggestions get used or not is not your job to, ensure that they do or see how they went or anything like that. You might discuss it, but it's the teacher's decision as to whether those suggestions are going to be implemented or not and whether they work or not. So you're not responsible for the outcome, the teacher is, which is different from monitoring. In monitoring, the OT or the other practitioner is fully responsible for conducting the evaluation and developing the plan. And this happens in the person's natural environment. And a person in that environment, such as the paraprofessional, can be trained to carry out the plan. So let's go back to the sensory diet plan I used before. So you are, as a skilled service provider, are the one who is able to set up that sensory diet, because it takes a skilled practitioner to be able to interpret the child's response and make sure that that child is not overstimulated or understimulated, because that can cause other challenges. So you're responsible for setting that plan up, training the person to implement the plan. That person may collect data for you, may write notes or whatever, but you are the one who's going to decide whether that plan needs to be changed, needs to be different. Strategies might need to be used, determine whether the plan is working or not, ensuring that the plan is being implemented properly. So you're not providing a direct service to the child. You may have written a sensory diet. It's impossible for the OT to be present. Oftentimes when I start a sensory diet, I'm having the child get input in half-hour intervals. I can't be in that classroom every half an hour through the day for the number of children that I might have on sensory diets. That would be my entire job if I had even 6 kids on my caseload, or maybe even fewer than that. I didn't do the math. So you have to train someone in that child's environment to be able to implement that, but they don't have the skill and the knowledge to be able to determine if it's working or not and make changes. They can implement it, but they can't determine the effectiveness of it. So you will rely on that person collecting data or taking notes, or anecdotally saying, Johnny didn't do well after that, playing with that weighted ball for 5 minutes. He just couldn't sit still. So maybe you need to have changes. But under monitoring, you're the one responsible for determining the outcome. So that is it for school-based practice. It really isn't. It's much bigger picture, and we'll go into a little bit more of it next semester, but that'll get you started. All right. Have a great day.